December 18, 1944, at 11:47 at night. In an icy foxhole outside Bastogne, Belgium, Private Second Class, James Jimmy Castellano lay on his stomach. The German defensive line was only 300 yards away. At that moment, inside his commanding officer tents, at a military court-martial sentencing document. The execution date was set for December 21st. His crime assaulting a superior officer, and his fate was the firing squad. Yet over the next 9 hours, this death row inmate would single-handedly destroy 14 German tanks with just a bazooka, even forcing the German army to abandon their breakthrough plan in the salient. But in the official reports that followed, no one would mention his name. The temperature at the time had plummeted to 8 degrees Fahrenheit. Every breath Castellano took sent a blast of AC mist into the air. He gripped a weapon that should not even exist, a monster he had modified himself. He used the tube of an M1A1 Bazooka, paired it with a sniper scope scavenged from a scrapped German Anken. Even all the rockets were illegally modified by him. He was not facing court-martial because he was a coward, ironically. It was because he loved doing things out of the ordinary way too much. From the snowy ground opposite him came the roaring sound of a diesel engine. It was a German Panzer II in the woods, preparing to launch a general offensive at dawn. Intelligence had indicated that the enemy had 40 tanks, but Castellano Company only had 6 standard bazookas. Over the past week, these guys had fired 37 rockets in, only to manage to penetrate any armor. The rest just bounced off the tanks like little pebbles, directly leading to them being completely routed. Castellano touched his modified rockets. He only had 12 left. He had to make every single shot count. Jimmy's skills were honed in a large metalworking shop in southern Philadelphia. His father owned a metal processing shop that repaired industrial boilers. In a place like that, one welding mistake could cost everyone on the street their lives. His old man had taught him from a young age how to maintain precision under pressure, how to identify metal fatigue, just by listening to the sound, how to drill at angles without using a ruler, and how to fashion his own tools when none were available. Jimmy could weld at age 11 and cut metal at age 9. By the time he was 16, standing at the end of the warehouse, he could tell at a glance which structures were structurally unsound. In April 1943, he joined the 101st Airborne Division and became a combat engineer. He did not join the paratroopers just to jump out of planes. This guy had a severe fear of heights. He joined purely because the unit lacked technical guys who understood demolitions and maintenance. During every jump training, he would throw up in his helmet, but he stubbornly pushed through by keeping his eyes glued to the floor. On the day of the Normandy landings, when he jumped out of the plane, his hands were trembling so much he could not even hold his rifle steady. But the moment the fighting started, his hands stopped shaking. His father had taught him that precise technical work required absolute focus, and in a flash, he was in the zone. While the other engineers were frantically fumbling with fuses and detonators, he rigged up an improvised shaped charge in just 30 seconds. He jammed it tightly into a position, lit it, and walked away because he knew the thing would slice through the steel plate perfectly. His squad leader, Luskin, a miner from West Virginia, had only one thing to say about him: Castellano, whatever you do, just do not shoot crooked. This reputation saved his life during his first month, but it could not save his brothers around him. Bazooka flaws began to show in Normandy and only got worse as they fought on. The weapon looked intimidating, a 5-foot-long tube that claimed to be able to penetrate 4 inches of armor from 200 yards away. In theory, it could destroy any German tank, but once on the battlefield, whoever carried the damn thing was usually the first to die. Martin Nice had trained for 8 months and had excellent marksmanship, but he still died on the battlefield because the weapon itself was garbage. It was a problem with the ammunition, not the men. On December 15th, 3 days before the start of the Battle of Bastogne, Castellano was resting at a supply depot outside of Bastogne. He did not sleep. Instead, he sneaked into the armory to study captured German Panzer Faustus. Comparing them side by side with the U.S. bazooka rockets, a professional like him could immediately see the difference. German-shaped charge explosives word a deeper the blast cone was more pronounced and the standoff distance between the warhead and the target was longer. The American rockets were, relying entirely on brute force to squeeze their way in. The German weapons were playing with geometry and physics. Castellano went to find the ordnance officer Lieutenant Morrison, laying out all his calculated data angles and metallurgical differences on the table. Morrison only listened for 90 seconds before losing his patience. He interrupted, "Private, are you an ordnance engineer?" Castellano replied no. Morrison asked again, "Did you design this rocket?" Castellano said no, "But sir, I have to tell you the angles are wrong." Morrison stood up and sneered, "The bazookas meet all standards. If you are missing, it is because your training is bad." The conversation ended there. Castellano stormed out of the tent and headed straight for the ammo dump. Since the brass would not fix it, he would do it himself. From the night of the 15th through the morning of the 16th, he stayed up blindly tinkering with his method. It sounded simple but was insanely dangerous. With an entrenching tool, he carefully shaved the inner cones, making a deeper cavity. Then he removed the wooden rings from captured German grenades and slipped them over the rocket warheads to act as standoffs. This wood on-ring ensured that upon impact, the warhead would detonate exactly 4 inches away from the tank surface. He had measured it out. Only with this setup could the liquid copper jet fully form before hitting the armor, maximizing power. This required extreme precision. Shave off too much and it would not detonate. Shave off too little and it would not penetrate. If the distance was off by even an inch, it would fail. Being too close was useless, and being too far was also useless. He relied entirely on his dad metal stress formulas and his own intuition, completely skipping any formal test runs. At 4:30 in the morning, platoon leader Luskin squeezed into the armory and saw the floor littered with modified rockets. His eyes went wide and he asked what the hell he was doing. Castellano did not even look up. "I am fixing the bazookas." Luskin picked one up, took a look, and instantly realized this kid had heavily altered the stuff, acting against all regulations. He asked, "Do you know that unauthorized modification of ammo is a court-martial offense?" Castellano deadpanned, "I know." Luskin asked again, "Do you know that if this thing detonates early, the guys firing it will be completely blown to bits?" Castellano still gave the exact same answer, "I know." Platoon leader Luskin stood there in the freezing tent for a long time. Then the sounds of faint artillery fire echoed from the east. The major German offensive had officially begun in the snow. Luskin looked at the rockets, then back at Castellano and asked, "How many do you have?" Castellano replied, 18 rounds. Luskin waved his hand, "Take 12, hide the rest. If anyone asks you, tell them you scavenged them from the German ammunition depot." As he walked to the door, he turned back and told Castellano, "You better make sure this crap actually works on the battlefield." And boy, did it work. On December 16th, during the first firefight outside a village, he knocked out a Panzer IV tank. A modified rocket punched right through the thick front armor, completely detonating the enemy ammunition hidden inside. The massive explosion was earth-shattering, sending heavy steel fragments violently flying over 80 yards away in the snow. The other 2 anti-tank teams fired standard rounds. They shot 6 times and barely scratched the heavy enemy tank paint. Lieutenant Morrison rushed over upon hearing the news. Seeing the modified rockets, his face turned pale with extreme anger. He barked, "Private Castellano, you are immediately under arrest for the highly unauthorized modification of military supplies." Castellano replied, completely expressionlessly, "Sir, I just took out a massive German tank with only one single perfect shot." Morrison shouted, "Read in the face, modifying ammo is treating your fellow soldiers' fragile lives like a complete deadly joke." Castellano scoffed. Seeing these bureaucratic officers treating a useless weapon as a sacred cow was simply way too much. Before 20 minutes had passed, the frontline hero was heavily handcuffed and locked up tightly in the freezing guardhouse. On December 17th, the military court-martial documents were signed slating his execution for the 21st. But as the fighting dragged on, the army efficiency at killing its own men was high, yet the Germanists alt grew really fierce. Bastogne was completely surrounded, and no one had the time to breathe. The brass-handed Castellanoist and her infantry rifle. But the German armor was way too thick for regular rifles to handle, and the frontline defenses were rapidly crumbling. As the enemy tanks closed and his company commander realized they desperately need a defective anti-tank weapons to survive. Someone quickly remembered the imprisoned engineer and his highly illegal rockets hidden in the freezing military armory. They rushed to pull him out of the guardhouse and ordered him to retrieve his customized bazooka and modified ammunition. On December 18, 1944, at 11:47 at night, he found himself back in the icy foxhole. The roaring sound of heavy diesel engines echoed loudly as multiple German tanks emerged from the dense winter tree line. Castellano loaded his first modified rocket, the wooden ring perfectly positioned and aimed through the scavenged scope. He fired and the rocket streaked across the dark battlefield, hitting the lead tank squarely on its thick-sloped armor. Boom, the shaped charge detonated flawlessly, slicing through the heavy steel and instantly igniting the ammunition inside. A massive explosion lit up the winter night, halting the enemy advance and shocking both the defenders and the attackers. Over the next 9 agonizing hours, he systematically hunted down the advancing enemy armor through the freezing darkness. Every single shot was a masterclass in improvised engineering, turning useless supplies into armor-piercing projectiles. He moved stealthily from trench to trench, dodging heavy machine gun fire while carrying the precious remaining rockets. By dawn, the snowy battlefield was heavily littered with burning wreckage, completely halting their planned breakthrough. When the smoke finally cleared, platoon leader Luskin ran over and asked him how many enemy tanks he had completely destroyed. Castellano, completely exhausted, replied, "Simply counted 14. Platoon leader Luskin was entirely speechless for half a day. Luskin slowly lit a cigarette and handed it to Castellano. Then he said the paperwork from Morrison's desk must be torn up. With everyone in the company saved by him, who could possibly execute him now? But Luskin really wanted to keep it simple. By 9 in the morning, all the anti-tank squads heard about his massive feat. Other companies rushed over to ask for help. Castellano completely hid nothing from them. He patiently taught them how to trim the explosive cones and adjust dimensions. Within 24 hours, everyone on the freezing front line was secretly modifying their ammunition to survive the attacks. On January 19th, an engineering team arrived to carefully inspect the highly modified rockets on the freezing front line. They confirmed standard issue rockets only had a 14% penetration rate against Panther tanks during the battle. Modified ones had an over 80% success rate. They recommended mass production, but his name was entirely buried. After the war ended, he quietly returned to Philadelphia to run the family boiler business, raising 3 wonderful children. He never spoke a single word about the brutal war. At the Airborne Division veteran reunions, he simply never ever showed up. It was not until 1987, when a historian dug up a 1944 report, that the hidden truth came out. The historian found him fixing a boiler. When asked, the old man simply said, "I just fixed the angles." This was his legend. If you want more hardcore breakdowns of unknown heroes and incredible battlefield ingenuity, just smash that like button. Make sure to subscribe so you do not miss any future historical deep dives. I am your strategy observer. See you next time.